Valley Church. Hope for those who have given up on church.
Hi, folks. This is the Best Stuff Jesus Taught, number 5. And we're on this journey of discovering the powerful statements that Jesus made that change everything in the course of human history and human events, how they worked in people's lives. I'm Gerry Stoltzfoos from Freedom Valley Church in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, just a few miles from you. Love to have you with us. Love to hear from you along the way. If you want to write me, you can write at 3185 York Road, Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, 17325. Or write my email address, just g@freedomvalley.org. I'd love to hear from you and anything that's on your heart today about what God is doing on this show. God bless you. Hi, folks. We're in the Best Stuff that Jesus Taught, number 5, having to do with getting rid of guilt, specifically in the area of lust, where a lot of people are trapped in a lifestyle that is defeating and difficult all over the place. Don't understand some basics that Jesus taught about this powerful subject and how to stay free, how to keep yourself at a place that is free. I love this so much. In Matthew chapter 5, verse 27, you've heard the commandment that says, you must not commit adultery. But I say, anyone who even looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. So if your eye, even your good eye, causes you to lust, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your hand, even your stronger hand, causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It's better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. Jesus here is talking about some amazing things in understanding the process of how lust works in a person's heart. And I love this so much. He is being very, very specific and very brutal about the whole subject and saying, here's how you get rid of guilt in your life so that you understand exactly what the steps could be to get you to freedom in the area of getting rid of guilt. In the first place, he says in verses 27 and 28, you've heard the commandment that says, you must not commit adultery. But I say, anyone who even looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. Here Jesus is concerning himself with what we think. I love this, that again, Jesus comes straight to the subject of what we're thinking about when we're talking about the area of guilt and lust. Our world has a lot to say about this. There is, on the one side, a group of people who say, well, men just have the DNA to lust. Men just have a DNA to have this passion for other things, for other relationships in their lives. And then we have, on the other side, we have perhaps some believers who say, oh, wait a minute. But Jesus said, and also often get wrong what he said. I want you to see what he said. You've heard the commandment that says you must not commit adultery, but I say that anyone who even looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. He's talking here about a person who looks at a woman with lust. And he's talking about a person who has this inflamed place in his heart and life where he's committed himself to the acts of ungodliness and is just looking for a way to experience it, to live it out. And he's speaking about what you think. He says, if you settle your heart and mind on thinking things that are ungodly, you're going to live them out at some level. They're going to happen in your life. And you will be somebody who has this ongoing experience in your life of shame and degradation that is serious and powerful to you. Listen, nobody has everything they think they could have in a sex life. And everybody has issues. I want to settle that right up front. Everybody has some issues in your life. You've got some kind of temptation. You've got some kind of a painful effect. You got some kind of a horrible place in your life where you have an issue of some kind that is something you're struggling with inside. And Jesus is dealing with you, saying that anyone who even looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery in his heart. He's talking here about people who have given themselves over to lust. They believe that it would be better with somebody else than the person they're married to, and are struggling with a commitment or a temptation there. And so they're looking around already. They're committed to that idea. It's probably not talking about the flitting thought coming through your mind of a lustful idea or a passion, but it's talking about that thing where you have settled in your heart that you want to do something that is ungodly and unhelpful to your relationship. And that maybe you can deal in fantasy rather than in reality somewhere. So it's Jesus talking about what you think that matters here incredibly. If you begin to focus on that other person as a solution, you've just created a new problem. There's no such solution out there anyway. There's only a series of deeper problems for us. And Jesus is talking here about what I think as the key to the issue. If I allow lust into my heart, if I allow my heart to begin to place itself on thoughts or ideas about somebody that I'm not married to, I'll have an issue there every time. That's the purpose of Jesus talking about this, that I do not spend my time building a temptation in my heart and mind that is ungodly and will therefore have this ramification in my heart that's ongoing and passionate and powerful in me. I spend my time thinking about my wife and focusing myself on her in all of my thoughts about sexuality. And I have a passion for her. That matters to God. So if I've built this passion for somebody else, that's a problem. And thinking about adultery is the same as doing it. He's saying here that if you even look at a woman with lust, you've already committed adultery in your heart. That is, by looking at a woman with lust, he's saying that you have already begun to fantasize about her or about being with her sexually. You've already begun to train your mind to think about her in a sexual way. That already has a ramification in your heart and life that is powerful and passionate and dangerous. It has the ability to derail you because you've spent your time thinking about something that you've not had yet and will probably need to live out because you have begun to think about it in that way. You'll start focusing on her as the solution to the problem. That's the whole issue. Now you've created a new problem. You've created the problem where you've allowed your mind the ability to start thinking about somebody else that you're not married to and have begun thinking about intimacy with that person and already have this powerful, underwhelming thought going on in your head that will have a reality if you let it. Spend time there and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Spend time there and you will be in trouble. The lust going on deep inside your heart needs to be lived out. And it's Jesus saying it's the lust deep in your heart that has this huge effect in your life. You're never going to have sex with somebody you're not married to if you're not thinking about it already. You know, I love the story of Joseph, who was sold by his brothers into slavery as a teenager. And he's struggling with life on so many levels. He's struggling with how to live out life. And he gets into Potiphar's house. And Potiphar's wife sees him and sees him as a handsome young guy. The Bible says that's how she sees him. and she wants to sleep with him, and she starts working on that. But Joseph hasn't been thinking about her sexually. And the thought is abhorrent to him. He's like, what are you talking about, lady? Come on. He's not thinking about it. Because he's not thinking about it, he's not about to do it. Here's Jesus. Jesus is saying, listen, it's what we think about that has this huge effect in our lives. And if I am thinking about sex with somebody that I'm not married to, if I'm thinking about sex with somebody other than who I'm married to, I'm in trouble already. And I'm going to have this huge challenge to live out in my life because I have my brain going in that direction. I've begun to think about it. This is the problem. This is one of the many problems of the prevalence of pornography in our day, where we spend our time, many of us, foraging through the web for things that we want to be tempted with, until we've placed ourselves at a place where, because our temptations are now larger than life, we don't have any choice but to live them out in some way. He's saying, come on, it's what you think that matters. It's what you think that will have the long-term results in your life. And it's what you think that will have, is where it all starts. If you don't start dreaming about somebody else lustfully, you're never going to follow through on that. You're never going to follow through on that. You're never. It depends on where you've settled your thoughts. You know, in our world today, there's a lot of talk about are women catching up with men in this area, and are women just as wrong as men? Listen, it doesn't matter. He's not drawing one out ahead of the other, it wouldn't appear. He's just saying, hey, listen, if there is a problem, it has to be dealt with in the head, in the mind, in the situation where only you can think and only you know. You can be sitting in church and be spending your time lusting after somebody else. You can be sitting in a totally safe environment and be spending your time thinking about lusting about somebody else. That's the issue that Jesus is dealing with right here, because his situation, his concern is that many of us have this ongoing thing in our heads that we have never dealt with. And now in the reality of life, a opportunity will present itself one day that will give us this unbelievable desire or opportunity. Because we have the opportunity now and we've been thinking about it, we will act out on that opportunity and live in it. And it will become our reality. Now, as a pastor, I tell you, over 21 years, I've dealt with so many people who have lost their way here. They had a seemingly good marriage, gave it all away, sold it all out in the one lustful relationship that has this huge ramification, and now have begun to live out the unbelievable emotional tragedy that comes with it. There is no way to overcome this that doesn't require you to walk through some kind of pain. You're going to have to walk through it. Face it. And Jesus is just saying, here's what you do. Avoid the thought. Don't let the thought begin in your heart and mind. Don't let it start. Don't let the one thought that has potential of derailing your entire marriage begin, and you will be okay. Because it is going to be about what you think. And if you're not choosing to think about an ungodly situation, you're not going to live in it either. Secondly, he says, he's talking about it's about what you see. He says in verse 29, so if your eye, even your good eye, causes you to lust, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. Now, I don't know anybody gouging out their eyes. I don't know anybody like this. And everybody can easily see that Jesus is being facetious here. He's saying that many of us have this powerful, passionate belief in the good of our bodies, and have missed that it is our souls that will experience hell for eternity, and it was our souls that will dictate where we go. And he's saying, if your eye causes you to sin, gouge it out. He's saying, come on, people, be serious about this. Deal with the issue deeply and powerfully and emotionally, inside and out. Take decisive and serious action so that your eye cannot cause you to sin. It's not even possible. Deal with it from the inside out so that your whole body won't be thrown into hell just because of your eye. When it's just a situation of your eye. Take authority of what you see with your eye. You don't have to allow your eye to give in to sin. You don't have to allow your eye, no matter how degraded the environment is that you're born into, you do not have to allow your eye to rule your life. You can be in charge. And the way that you are in charge is you start thinking of your eye as a potentially reduced substance. Something that doesn't have to have the authority in it anymore to take away your freedom. Don't give it that ability to take away your freedom. He says, and if your hand, even your stronger hand, causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. Again, he's talking about the difference in what you touch. You're not going to touch if your heart didn't go there first and your eye didn't go there first. If your heart and eye led you there, now your hand may cause you to. And he's saying, listen, you're not going to stumble into sexual adultery. It's not something you stumble into. It's something you walk into. You walk into it by, first of all, spending time with your eye there. What has your eye done? If your eye has spent time thinking about it, and now your hand reaches out to touch it, you've passed the boundaries a long time ago. That all started in your heart, whether your heart caused you to sin. Deal with it with your hand directly and be as serious as you need to be with your hand, refusing to give in to the sin, whatever sin is in front of you. Don't let it. Simply don't let it. Be serious enough that you would cut off your hand if necessary. You know, once again, let me just say, I don't know anybody cutting off their hand. I don't know anybody. What Jesus is saying is not physical here. He's talking about a spiritual situation in our brains where our brains refuse to go to where we have seen the idolatry and we've imagined the idolatry and we have focused on the idolatry. And now it's not going to happen because our hand will not touch what our brain has refused to allow itself room to be in the first place. That's the power of God right here. So make a permanent boundary if necessary. What's the boundary marker that you need to make sure that your body will not be in sin anymore? To make sure that your body does not have the opportunity to cause you to wander into sin and to be one of those places or one of those people who's constantly struggling with issues going on all around you. Make a permanent boundary. Understand the penalty that you're up against. Proverbs describes a young person who wandered off into sexual sin and then realized what a horrible mistake they made. How serious that mistake is. How horrible the mistake is. And how they wish, like everything, they hadn't heaped fire into their own bosom. He's saying, listen, what you touch is like that. If you touch something that belongs to somebody else, you have a serious long-term repercussions in your body that have a huge effect upon you forever. So you deal savagely with that situation. Deal with it in whatever savage context you need to make sure that you're not living in that place of emotional or spiritual adultery. because you never get to physical adultery if you haven't been in emotional or spiritual adultery first. And he says what you touch is directly related to what you've been thinking about. If you've been thinking about ungodly things, you're going to have an ungodly result. You're going to touch something that is ungodly for you. And the power of God in your life will be gone from you at that point because you played that game. So understand the penalty. Deal savagely with the situation. Next, he's saying settle the difference. Settle it. Settle it by being willing to deal with that arm if you need to. To deal with that situation by gouging out the eye or cutting off the hand. Do whatever you need to do to make sure that you're not living in that precarious place where the differences are unsettled and undealt with. And you have the potential of creating for yourself this ongoing nightmare of having spent time adulterously with somebody that you'll have to pay the price for forever. Settle the difference. Be willing to sacrifice if you need to live pure. That means be willing to pay the price, whatever the price, to live pure. Listen, Christian man, there's all kind of ways today to live pure if you want to choose not to be on the internet, choose not to be in places where you've put yourself in trouble and in difficulty all the time, to give somebody else the authority to look at your browser or whatever you have to do, to live above and beyond those places of pain that cause you so much of the agony that goes on and on and on in life. Do whatever it takes to be free from it. And understand that hell's a real place. It has real ramifications. It has real potential. And you dragging yourself to it has no benefit. Don't drag yourself. Walk in the freedom that he has in mind for us to walk in so that we can be the kind of people that do not have even our hand causing us to sin and needing to be thrown away because of it. God has a passion for your life to live on. Let it live.
I was really close to the Lord till I was about 16, 17, and decided I kind of would rather go the way my friends wanted to go than the way that I felt God leading me. And it was about then that I really kind of felt the pull towards ministry. Went away to college, secular college for a semester, got in a lot of partying. Didn't really have that much fun. Ended up leaving there. Got pulled to a Christian college the next couple of years. Really reconnected with the Lord then. Really found him again. And it was great because he blessed me with just this great life, great friends. I had a lot of things that I always wanted, but in a Christian set, friends that were more encouraging as far as God was concerned. A lot of friends that were, pushing me forward as a man of God and instead of pushing me to be a delinquent, but really, it kind of faded away again. I had gotten all the things that I wanted, but I still felt that call to ministry and I still didn't want it, and after bargaining with God, I dropped out of school, went to culinary school because that's what I wanted to do. Everything that I thought was important and everything that mattered to me just kind of fell through my hands, and I lost the most precious things to me. And it left me with nothing, no foundation, anything. And honestly, it was my connection to God through my life that was the only thing I had left to cling on to. About a year ago, I was at my cousin's birthday party, and I met Keith and Wendy Kadish, and I ended up talking to Keith, and he invited me. He said, Monday nights we have this men's group that we do, we're reading the book, The Resolution for Men, and you should come. And he got my number, and sure enough, earlier the day that I was supposed to go, he texted me, and I was like, I I guess he's serious. He really wants me to go, you know? So I show up, and I'm kind of blown away because it's a lot of the strong leader type men in this church, and I felt so out of place because I was so weak and so wounded and so hurt. I went once, stopped for a couple weeks, went once again, stopped for a couple weeks, and then right after Christmas I get an email that says, hey, you know, that now that this group's over, we're going to start this Knights of the 21st Century. And I checked it out, and it was cool because it felt like something I needed and felt like something I was longing for, and it was a great group to connect with. And it was nice because then I started going around January, getting involved and going to Freedom Valley, and it was nice to see the men that I'd known Monday nights and not feel like a complete total stranger. It was a couple months of that, you know, of going sporadically to Freedom Valley, and then nights came to an end in the end of the spring, right before the summer started, and I had this really bad night once where I ended up calling my mom and just broke down. I was like, you know, this can't be all there is. It can't just be go to church on Sunday and work 40, 50 hours a week and then spend all the money you made from working on bills and your, you know, just stuff that was pointless. And she was like, well, get involved in the church. I said, you know, and so I started going to Freedom Valley more. About a couple months ago, they played this video, and it was, you know, the youth group and all the benefits of helping out at the youth group, and it just kind of connected and clicked with me. And I said, well, I know somebody that helps out with the youth group, you know, so we'll find out, you know, see how that goes. And I go to talk to Devin about it, and Jason comes flying up and wants to say something to Devin. He's like, oh, hey, by the way, I'm Jason. What's your name? And I tell him, and he's like, oh, I gotta leave, but you should totally come to the Catalyst meeting. I said, all right. So I show up, and next thing I hear is, you know, hey, this is Rob. He's the new guy getting involved with the youth group. I'd come in expecting to just be the guy that swept the floors and stacked the chairs because, you know, maybe that's what God needed me to do. And to go from that and being thrown in and meeting all the people that are rough, you know, around my age in the church, and to have like a group of friends again, and just over the course of the next month, I got more and more involved in the church, and it's become the place I go to spend time with my God, to the place I go to spend time with my God with my friends, with the people I love. And that's, I mean, that's like going from 0 to 60, you know, it's completely different experience. You know, it's one thing to fellowship with the Lord, which is so important, but it's a totally another thing to fellowship with the Lord with people you love and that love you. And that's what I get here, you know, that's such a big thing for me. It's been great getting involved and cooking here at the church and getting involved with that, because it's God taking the choice that I made and the mistake that I made and turning it into something for His glory. I see where I take my life, you know, I see where I lead myself, you know, whether it be, you know, with the best intentions or the worst intentions. And it's just, God takes me so many better places, you know, God takes me so many higher places, you know, and it's all to glorify Him and to serve Him, but it's always been so great. And I just have that hope for the future, you know, and that hope that God's gonna take the broken things that I've done and the everything that I've destroyed and just kind of put it all back together.
So it's the best stuff Jesus taught, and we've been exploring some of the incredible statements that Jesus makes throughout His ministry about what He is about and what matters to Him. It's powerful and life-changing stuff, and I'm so glad you could be with me on this. I'd love to hear from you. You could write me at the email address g@freedomvalley.org. Love to hear from you that way. Or even more, I'd love to have you stop by the church or write the church, Freedom Valley Church, 3185 York Road, Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, 17325. And anything that God has put in your heart, anything that you're learning along the way, or something that God is doing in you would be great to hear. Thank you so much. God bless you today.